Hello everyone, this is Inevitable Failure Gaming, and today we are going to be failing at the Mass Effect Trilogy. Now, I'm a big fan of the Mass Effect Trilogy, and I'm also a fan of the fact that not only do you have so many choices that you can make throughout the games, but it also gives you a score, essentially. It gives you a numerical value at the end of the third game that tells you how well you managed to do. Years ago, around the time that the third game came out, I decided to play through all three games and try to get the maximum possible score by picking all the correct quest choices. I recently thought that what would be even more interesting is if I could do the exact opposite, play through all three games and try to get the minimum score possible by screwing everything up. First off, we have the hideous McGonagall Shepard playing through Mass Effect 1. There are actually only a handful of choices here that ultimately make a difference to your final score. The first thing you can do is punch the reporter, Khaleesa Al-Jalani. You can punch her in all three games, and you need to do so at least once in order to lose her as an asset. I actually screwed up my first chance somehow and ended up punching her in the Citadel in Mass Effect 2 instead. Next up is Feros. Here we are going to kill every colonist and then execute Shiala after defeating the Thorian. On Noveria, we do not want the Rachni Queen to survive, so we need to use the acid to finish her off. Her death allows us to access the evil Breeder Queen in Mass Effect 3. Conrad Werner can lead to another potential asset. The easiest way to avoid it is to get him killed in Mass Effect 1 by dismissing him without using a persuade option. This will cause him to get into a fight and die off screen. On Vermeer, we have a few choices that matter. We actually want to keep Rex alive here. There are various ways to do this, but I believe it's possible to convince him with the right dialogue options even if you have no persuasion skills. It doesn't matter whether Ashley or Kaidan ultimately dies, but you should send the one that you want to survive with Kirahi's team just so that you get access to a few extra crates of loot. During the assault on Saren's base, you want to avoid going down the side path to the right here and killing the flying Geth drones. Failing to kill these will result in the death of Kirahi, which has some knock-on effects later. If you play the Bring Down the Sky DLC, then you get the chance to kill Balak. You want him to survive, so you can either let him go to save the civilians, or just not play the DLC mission at all. At the end of the game, you want to save the Council, since the losses to the human fleet slightly outweigh the gain from the Destiny Ascension. Choosing Anderson or Udina as the human councillor makes no difference, as Udina will end up in charge no matter what. On to Mass Effect 2 now, and the most important choices here relate to who survives the final mission and whether they are loyal or not. Shepard will die if you don't have at least two other survivors, so I'm going for a loyal Garrus and a loyal Morden being the only ones who make it. We need to thin out the numbers as much as possible, although the game also forces you to do the majority of the recruitment missions in order to advance the plot. I didn't have access to Zaid or Kasumi on this profile, but if you do have the appropriate DLC installed, then you can just avoid recruiting them. You can also avoid recruiting Grunt by never opening his cloning tank. If you don't open it before the final mission, then the game considers him dead. You want to avoid loyalty missions in general. Sometimes you might need to complete something in order to make the next story mission available, so you might need to scan some planets to find a few random side quests. You do, however, want to do Morden's loyalty mission so that you can destroy Maelon's research data. I also did Garrus's mission to ensure his loyalty and therefore his survival. If you have the Overlord DLC, then you want David Archer to die. You can play the DLC and insist that he remain part of Project Overlord, causing him to die in between games, or you can simply ignore the situation, forcing Cerberus to nuke it from orbit. The Arrival DLC should not be played. Once you've been through most of the game and acquired Legion, you want to activate him and do his loyalty mission to rewrite the Heretic Geth. You then want to waste time by doing 4 or more random missions to give the Collectors time to kill the Normandy's crew. You can find missions on random planets, or you can do certain loyalty missions. Samara and Thane's missions can be failed by allowing their targets to escape. In my game, I knew that Jack was going to die to a lack of ship upgrades, so it didn't matter if she was loyal or not. Talking of upgrades, you should avoid the Thanix Cannon, Solara's Armour and Cyclonic Barrier ship upgrades to help kill off your team at the end of the game. You also want to end the game with exactly 0 resources. If you run out of fuel between systems, then the game will remove some of your Iridium, Platinum and Palladium, but this will not work for Element 0. You need to get your Element 0 to a multiple of 2500 so that you can then waste it on reassigning Shepard's talents. You can either probe planets in order to get the exact amount that you need, or you can try to ensure that you never gain any from scanning and only pick up boxes found during the missions. If you are careful from the very start, then you can get a round number fairly easily. I also try to waste all of my credits and probes, although I don't think this step is actually necessary. Probes can just be fired into a random planet. For credits, you can buy random items to bring you down to a low amount, then buy drinks in the bar on Ilium to reach a multiple of 25. After that, you can buy fuel and waste it by flying around. There is no penalty for running out of fuel once your minerals are gone, and you can even buy fuel for free if you have no credits. Getting everything to go right in the final missions can be tricky, but I will explain the approach that worked for me. Going in, Zaid, Kasumi and Grunt were out of the picture, and only Morden, Garrus and Legion were loyal. Jack, Legion and Thane all died in cutscenes since I lacked the necessary ship upgrades. I sent Tali into the vents, and her lack of loyalty resulted in her death. The leader of the second squad was not relevant in this case. After rescuing Chakwas, I refused to provide her with an escort, resulting in her not making it back to the ship. I asked Miranda to project the biotic field. Her lack of loyalty causes one of your current squad to die, and the game uses a set priority list to determine who. I took Morden and Jacob, knowing that the latter will always die first. My second team was led by Samara, but she didn't believe in me enough to keep fighting. For the final battle, I took Garrus and Morden. Both are guaranteed to survive this since they are loyal. Miranda was the only person left to hold the line, so she had no chance. Finally, I chose for the collector base to be destroyed. That just leaves us with Mass Effect 3. There are a lot of little choices here and there that can give you assets, but most can be avoided. One major point to address is the fate of the Vermeer survivor, Caden or Ashley. If you treat them poorly in this game, then they will die. If you treat them well, then you can avoid them becoming an asset by making them a squad member. Either approach is fine. After completing the priority Mars mission, we want to deny Diana Allers a spot on the Normandy to avoid her boosting morale. At the start of priority Surkesh, we don't want the support of Lieutenant Tolan, who replaces the dead Kirahi, so we should avoid talking to him. Back on the Citadel, we get another chance to punch the reporter, and we can also use our Spectre authority to influence a few policy decisions. Supporting the refugee in the docks will result in resources being wasted. If you listen to the full conversation between the two Asari in the hospital, the easiest way is to keep saving and reloading until you get the next part, then you can get an option at the Spectre terminal to provide her with a gun, resulting in her suicide. There are a couple of important missions to deal with before Priority Tuchanka. We want to do the Attican Traverse Krogan team mission and sacrifice the Krogan in order to save the Breeder Queen. She may seem like an asset right now, but she's actually going to turn on us. I also did the Tuchanka Turian platoon mission to ensure that I knew about the giant bomb, then I failed to do anything about it. Later on it will explode and cause significant civilian casualties. During Priority Tuchanka, I did not warn Morden about the genophage sabotage, and then I shot him in the back when he finally worked it out for himself. In the middle of Priority the Citadel 2, the Solarian Councillor will die, since Thane and Kirahi are not around to intervene. If the Vermeer survivor is not killed, then you must recruit them. After the mission, there are a few more things to do on the Citadel. Batarian Balak will appear during the Batarian Codes mission as long as he survived Bring Down the Sky, and should be killed. Listening to the full conversation between Private Talavi and her superior in the docking bay will give you the option to transfer her, wasting a good engineer. Shepard should also support the CSEC officer at Apollo's Cafe, and then the angry merchant at Agor Munitions. This allows you to authorize weapon sales at the Spectre terminal, causing more problems for CSEC. It is necessary to do one of the side missions for the Quarians in order to advance the plot. Ranach Admiral Chorus is the best option since it will give no benefit if Chorus is not dissuaded from sacrificing himself. After this mission there will be an argument between Admiral Ran and Admiral Gerrel, and Shepard should support the former. During Priority Ranach, I sided with the Quarians to destroy the Geth. Back on the Citadel, Rex catches up with us. He knows that we sabotaged the cure and is not pleased. Rex ends up dead, and we lose most of our Krogan support. Miranda was not around to help during Priority Horizon, and I failed to dissuade Henry Lawson from killing Oriana. And that just about does it for Mass Effect 3. Other than that, I avoided all side missions, I didn't do any DLC, and I never scanned anything. So let's have a brief look at some of the choices I made and why. Saving the Council at the end of Mass Effect 1 gives the Destiny Ascension asset for 70 points, but you lose 25 points for each from 3 of the human fleets. The result is a net negative. Normally the game compensates for this by making the original Solarian Councillor worth more than the replacement one, but in our case the Councillor did not make it. The resolution to the Krogan situation depends on whether you sabotage the Cure and whether Rex is still living. The Krogan forces are worth far more points than the Solarian ones, so the worst outcome here is to have Rex alive to discover that you chose to sabotage the Cure, losing you their support completely. With the Quarians in the Geth, if you can broker peace, then it actually makes no difference how you handled Legion's loyalty mission in Mass Effect 2. Rewriting means a larger Geth force that kills more Quarians before you can intervene, but the numbers cancel out exactly. However, we can minimise our score by rewriting the Geth so that they can kill more Quarians, then siding with the depleted Quarian forces. Siding with the Quarians gives you fewer points overall, especially since we have a few more options to mess with their leadership and weaken them. So, after completing Priority Cerberus headquarters, we can finally view our final score. Now, the first entry here will usually be Alien. This one is actually a bit strange, since if you do everything exactly right, you can actually get a score of -2 for the Citadel Defense Force asset. The game treats this as a null score, so that you do not get any alien entry in the list, but if we add up all of the values at the end, we will see that the -2 for the Defense Force does appear to be included. The next tab is Alliance, and you get a certain number of points here no matter what. We have the Alliance Engineering Corps with a value of 30. You actually start the game with 130 for this, but 100 points of our engineers were eaten as a result of saving the Rachni Breeder Queen. The 103rd Marine Division is also automatic, but you lose 50 points for not completing the Arrival DLC in Mass Effect 2. You always get support from the First Fleet, but they have lost numbers after saving the Council in the first game. The same goes for the Third Fleet, and they also suffered because I authorised the transfer of Private Talavi and because they were sabotaged after I killed Balak. The Sixth Fleet is unfortunately at full strength no matter what. The Fifth Fleet is, again, weakened from saving the Council. Also on the list is the Normandy itself. It would be worth more if I had upgraded it in Mass Effect 2 or if I played the Citadel DLC. Finally, there are the mineral assets carried over from Mass Effect 2. These are worth a measly 10 points thanks to me completely depleting my minerals at the end of the second game. I believe you can avoid this asset completely by starting from scratch with a new Mass Effect 3 save file, but that doesn't allow any of the other choices to carry over, so it would give a higher score overall. Next up are the Asari assets. The fleets and the science team cannot be missed or decreased. The Destiny Ascension could be avoided by sacrificing the Council at the end of Mass Effect 1, but that would strengthen the human fleet and result in more points overall. We only have one Crucible asset. At the end of Mass Effect 2 you can destroy the Collector base to get the Reaper Heart for 100 points, or you can save the base to get the Reaper Brain for 110 points. You have to get one of them. Ex-Cerberus assets would normally be next, but we don't have any. David Archer, Miranda, Jacob, Kelly, all dead. After that would come Geth assets, but those have been wiped out as a result of our robot genocide. Krogan assets now, and this one seems like a mistake to me. Normally you get the Aralak Company asset for 25 points for completing the Attican Traverse Krogan team mission. You get 25 extra points if Grunt survived Mass Effect 2, and an additional 25 points if he was also loyal. The value of this asset should then drop by 25 if you save the Rachni Queen or Breeder Queen, since most of the company are wiped out as they cover your escape. In my case, the company was only worth 25 points to start with, so saving the Queen should have completely negated the asset, but for some reason this is not the case. It appears that if you play the mission, then you get the Aralak Company asset worth at least 25 points no matter what. I'm not sure if this is intentional or a bug, but that seemed to be how it works. I have no other Krogan assets since I betrayed Rex and allowed the bomb on Tuchanka to explode. For Solarian assets we get the Solarian First Fleet for betraying the Krogan. You can avoid this by curing the Genophage, but that grants much more valuable Krogan assets. The death of Kirihi and the Solarian Councillor prevent more points here. I was interested to learn that you can actually get Morden as an asset, but only if a very specific set of circumstances persuades him to abandon his cure. The Turians also lend us a significant amount of unavoidable support. The Turian engineers, marines and fleets will assist you no matter what. There is an opportunity to slightly damage one of the fleets, but that results in more assets elsewhere. Finally, we have the Quarians. You don't get their assets if you let the Geth kill them, but the Geth assets end up being worth more. Admiral Darozen is unavoidable, but we don't get points for Admiral Zalkoris because we didn't persuade him to accept rescue. His lack of leadership also devalued the civilian fleet, as did our failure to complete the Geth Fighter Squadron's mission. The heavy fleet was damaged after we supported Admiral Rand's inferior tactical decision. Additionally, all 3 fleets were damaged as a result of us boosting the Geth numbers by rewriting the heretics in Mass Effect 2. So, that is it for assets. If we add up all the numbers, then we get 1,816, but as I mentioned, the final total seems to be counting the -2 for alien assets, resulting in a final rating of 1,814 points. I haven't played online with this profile, so the default readiness rating of 50% lowers our final total to a measly 907. I believe that this is the lowest score that it is possible to get over the Mass Effect Trilogy. If you know of any other way to reduce the score, then please let me know in the comments, but I'm pretty sure that I've covered everything. Thank you very much for watching me failing at the Mass Effect Trilogy. I hope you enjoyed this, and if any of you would like to follow me on Twitter, Instagram or Facebook, why?